I'm going to start with the big question. What is the current term not giving us?
As I was saying, I think the issue may not be so much with what the term is not giving us, but with what it is giving us. And the term has given us, and continues to do so, has given us maybe a false sense of safety and security and completeness. So as we know from everyday life, once we have a term for something, once we can name something, we humans have a tendency to turn it into a thing, to reify it, as it were. So people kind of reify depression. It's become this thing. So you have depression, and the etiology for depression is that. So, but if you take a step back and think, okay, well, what exactly is depression? Then you must confess that depression, in the way we speak about it today, is, as are many other medical entities, it's a construct to help us communicate certain contents, certain things that we believe are important. So in this case, when we talk about, for example, major depressive disorder, we are referring to a set of criteria that a committee or a series of committees came up with to describe human suffering of a particular sort.
Yeah.
If you drill down into it, you will find that the way depression is defined, it can mean a huge multitude of things. So because of mathematical combinatorics, you can end up with thousands of different combos of depressive symptoms that would lead to depression. And if you look at what can lead to depression in terms of the pathways to it, they're very diverse too. So we tend to kind of either ignore that or just, kind of brush it under the carpet. And that comes at a cost. It comes at a cost, I think, of progress. So I'm not necessarily advocating for replacing the term with another term. I don't think that will help necessarily much. Nor am I saying that we therefore need, a whole multitude of terms to describe the different combinations. But we do need to take a step back and think about things. Also, one more thing that might be of interest to you and the listeners is that depression has been described at different times in history, but it's not been the same as what we're describing necessarily today. It overlaps, but the term melancholia or older descriptions of depression may not even be contained in the current criteria. So there is a bit of stuff in there that is also not covered. This becomes particularly important when we think about two issues. One is the issue of young people. So depressive disorders, we are told, have their origins in early life, and that's true. We see the peak incidence of depression starting in adolescence and kind of starting to flatten off in young adulthood. Okay, but we also know that the symptoms of depression have been extrapolated backwards into children. We don't necessarily have delved into what the suffering is in terms described by young people who can describe their problems. So there is a kind of, if you like, there's a neglect of certain aspects of experiences that are important. This becomes very acute when it comes to minorities as well. So we have this issue where we say, okay, well, this is depression, right? Well, who was this developed for and by whom, right? So does this really represent the suffering, the depression that people in certain minorities experience? Does it capture their kind of suffering? So this is social kind of equity meeting the difficulties with etiology. If you don't ask about these things, you won't find anything. We won't find out anything about these things. So it's very important to remember these things when we talk about depression. We must be very conscious of them. So I will try to raise awareness of this by showing also that this is scientifically very important about everything else.